Hey everyone, let's start the shit. It's Dialogue Choices number 2. I'm here with Colonel.
Hi.
And Andrew.
Hello.
Stephanie's dead.
No!
She's never coming back. She's in a ditch somewhere.
Forever.
That was very quick.
Yeah.
That
That
was
was
one
also
episode, and we
Plot
already
twist right out the gate. It's like some Gurren Lagann
It's
or
like
some
Game
shit.
of Thrones up in here.
Immediate.
don't lose your way.
We were talking about it just yesterday, about how Andrew understands Game of Thrones for what it is, and we don't. We don't.
I do.
Isn't that right, Andrew?
I had the foresight to know it was going to be bad the whole way down, so I left real early. And I was
It is.
smart.
It is the whole way down.
I have a whole bunch of experience because I read all of Bleach, so I can tell when a story is gonna be shit from the beginning. I have like the senses now.
You can smell the bleach in advance.
like exactly. After being there for like almost 15 years in a bad story, you know all the signs. You see it, and you're like, well, that's
God.
it. That's red flag number 1.
Bleach, like, it affected my anime watching in such a widespread way. And I didn't even
Bleach
experience
affected.
it like the way that other people did, where they were so disappointed because I didn't even get that far.
Bleach affected my friendship with Joe very heavily.
Oh my god.
I will never forgive him for telling me to watch it, and then he gave up after the first season. He didn't tell me he did that, and I was like halfway through the 5th season, and I was like, "Man, this is getting really garbage." And Joe's like, "I stopped watching like after the first season." I was like, "You what? What? I'm stuck now. I'm here."
You're stuck. But I don't think that's Joe's fault, though. I think that's...
It is. He
God.
recommended it to me, only watching one season, and then just gave up after that. It was like, I'm not gonna watch
It's,
the rest.
Andrew-
And I'm like,
I think
Recommendations
you're just...
are iffy.
Are they?
it's tough to recommend something early on. Like I feel a lot more confident recommending One Piece to someone now than I would like 2 seasons into One Piece.
Yeah, like or I just think about like when I watched you play Sim City, and it seemed really fun, and you were having fun, and everything seemed neat, and I watched hours of gameplay. But then, like, I went home and bought it, and as I was home buying it, the game was like turning to ash in your mouth. And then I discovered separately how bad it was over the next couple days. SimCity 2013.
And it wasn't neat.
Because at first
It
it's
is
like, oh, look at this tilt shift photography art style, and it seems really snappy and fun, and it seems neat. And then like then as you get into the more hardcore later game, you start realizing that the game's completely trash, and it doesn't work on a fundamental level, and it's like really, it doesn't have much replay value because when you try to make different cities, you're like, I have so little space to work with, and most of the simulation literally doesn't work. It's based around this forced multiplayer thing that also like just actively sabotages your gameplay, and you can't opt out of it, and there's all these other issues and so on. But then I think about like, I remember I was doing the Zelda playthrough of Breath of the Wild, and I was in the part where you kind of build this little like village. There's like an extended there's a extended like side quest chain where you're kind of building up this village that's like doing these little missions, getting them resources and helping them get what they need and so on. I'm like chopping down trees and kind of podcasting because there's not much to talk about in the game. And I had just read the first chapter of Ready Player One, and I was just talking about how like kind of neat it seemed, like the setting and everything.
Oh no!
But I hadn't actually gotten to any of the plot of Ready Player One yet. It was just the entire, like, the first chapter does not take place in the simulation at all. And it's just talking about the dystopian society of all like the stacked trailer houses and
Which sounds cool.
All the rough time that everyone's having, and yeah, like it's a
very
decent
Blade Runner-esque.
It's a decent intro.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I like forever regret expressing any positive feelings about Ready Player One, because I would then go on to actually read the book in its entirety.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, this is like the worst one.
And because it's on a Let's Play, it's not what have I done, it's what am I doing constantly every time somebody watches that video.
Yeah. No, yeah. Being a Let's Player is just having every moment of your life for the last 8 years constantly happening right now.
That's a good point.
It's a fucking weird life. People are mad at you now about a thing that happened 7 years ago because it's happening now again. And it always will.
Yeah, that's
The recommendation is
true.
scary.
And we're doing recommendations today. That's what we're doing.
We are doing.
Yeah, we are
we're
doing recommendations today. So let's dive in
I
this
don't
pit
have
again.
hesitation about my recommendations. I know that they are good.
It
You
is
don't
easy
think
to
they're good?
It is.
No, I know that they're good.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
Yeah.
easy
so
to
you should go first then.
It's easy to recommend movies because they end.
Sometimes.
It's hard for a movie to be bad after you've watched it.
I couldn't
Like, yeah,
finish.
it can't ruin itself past your initial watching. Yes.
Except for the aging process.
I couldn't finish watching Avatar. I literally
one?
could not.
What, the
I had to
movie?
stop and
Like Avatar: The Last Airbender live action movie.
No, the one with the blue people.
They can
Isn't that
both-
called Avatar?
Yeah.
Oh, Avatar.
They can both be hard
Yeah.
to sit through for different reasons.
Yeah, I never watched The Last
Yeah.
Airbender.
I watched the first Avatar. I illegally downloaded it, and I didn't realize until I got it that it was a Russian dub. And so I watched
You
it
made it better.
but it had no subtitles. So I watched it in Russian, and I walked away. I wrote down what the plot of it was, and then I went online and checked if I was right without knowing any of the dialogue, if I knew what the plot was.
Yeah.
And it was so basic that you don't even need to know the language to understand the plot of
true.
Avatar.
The first Avatar, the Avatar as a movie is so rote and like trope filled, and also so visual
Yeah.
in its storytelling. On top of being really, really redundant, that like you could just infer it all. It's like the idea of like when you hear about how like the Dark Crystal was originally made in its entirety with no dialogue, and that they overdubbed all the dialogue when they realized that people hated it.
Oh,
I don't know
no.
why you would hate it because I think it still
Yeah.
works. Like,
I'm
So-
gonna suggest a movie that's kind of like that, and it doesn't have dialogue for most of it. It's so great
for all the
sometimes.
Dark Crystal, the dialogue is largely redundant, which leads to the funniest line of the whole movie, which is "I'm taking a bath." They're doing the fucking. They're like, "What are we doing? We're mind fasting," and they share memories and shit, and then they just start awkwardly narrating the shit that's happening on the screen, leaving the protagonist in his stupid fucking gormless voice saying like, "I'm taking a bath."
You mentioned Blade Runner before.
fucking
Doesn't that
love it.
happen as well with Blade Runner, where he narrates everything as well?
That
Or is
was
that a different?
that was for different reasons. That was
Yeah.
like a mistake that shouldn't have been there that then gets corrected in like the director's cut.
Oh,
It was also a change, so it was like the equivalent of like how they added the voices in Dark Crystal in response to test audiences or whatever. Like in Blade Runner, they made the movie without the narration, then they panicked and added the narration, and the whole movie, fucking Harrison Ford sounds really bored, like he's being forced to do this like months later, and he doesn't want to do it. So it's a terrible narration, and it's mostly pointless. And yeah, that was how the movie came out originally. But it's like I don't know how easy it is to even find that version anymore. Nowadays, you get the director's cut with the unicorn scenes and no narration.
I've heard of this unicorn scene. I still have to watch it because it's the sort of
It's
movie that's
impressive.
very
Like
influential.
you can find the copy. There is a download you can find that has the audio of the original, and it's not great. Keith is like not being. He's not over exaggerating. Like Harrison Ford feels like they dragged him in at like 4 a.m. and told him like, dude, you need to narrate the whole fucking movie again.
I
And he's
think
like,
I've heard
"What?"
some of these lines. Yeah, and he sounds
he's just
very,
like he's
very
like
bored.
I went into the room to ask him a question.
He's
He
like,
didn't
he's
have
not a
the
narrator.
answer. I'm like, oh my god, Harrison, are you here?
Yeah.
What happened? It's like, it's not great.
I also-
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
he's also a presence actor. Like his acting style, from what I've seen, he's very much about like his postures rather than necessarily his action in faces. So,
But I mean, it also was like, even I'm sure Harrison could tell how pointless it was to read what he's doing. Like, it's not like you couldn't infer that he's doing something. He's just saying, like, yeah, guys, I'm talking to a person. I threw him through a window. Did you, Harrison? I didn't see that when he threw him through the window. I didn't see
'Cause
that
it's
part.
overdubbing the thing. It's like commentating.
Yeah, exactly. He's just commentating on his actions so that the viewer
It's a
isn't
let's
lost
play.
in what
Yeah,
It's a let's play.
literally.
I just absolutely hate movie commentary and voiceover where it's just not adding anything. Like,
Well, yeah,
if you're just saying stuff that I already know, then I just feel really talked down to the entire time. Like, and I know, and I get the irony because I'm a Let's Player, so half the time I'm just like in a moment of desperation, I'm like, fill the silence, say something.
But
It's
you're
like,
also more aware of that because you're a Let's Player.
oh yeah, no, I know what I'm doing when I just fucking throw away a garbage line because a cutscene ends, and I need to acknowledge that we're back to gameplay and me talking, and I just kind of sometimes just in one sentence, just kind of basically repeating what happened in the cutscene, like because I'm just like, I don't know, I'm just. It's like, oh, so she's like the da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, that's obviously, but it's just trying to say things. But when that's your scripted thing, I'm just like, you don't need to fill the dead air, Harrison. It's Blade Runner. It's known for its long shots and its chill silences and the synth music and the atmosphere.
It's great. It's so good at world building. And then you just have like Harrison shitting all over it. Not on his own accord, but like someone added Harrison Ford talking over all of this really good cinematography. And you're like, who did this?
It is, and that's why we're not suggesting Blade Runner. That's what you get, Blade Runner.
Well, we did a whole spoiler cast of that and its sequel.
I might have heard that. So, yeah.
The fuck.
Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
I totally lost the thread.
Of how to bring it back into us recommending movies.
It's just funny to me that one of the most well-regarded movies of all time, basically, is like this heavily edited and re-released and changed over and over again nightmares, where it's like you literally could be talking about a different movie from person to person, but it's this like incredibly highly regarded film. You always hear like
that's
Citizen
the Full Metal
Kane.
Alchemist problem.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, those are literally different shows.
Also, well, yeah, but I'm saying that they're just like both Full Metal Alchemists, and like the Brotherhood part gets left out in a lot of people's heads. So you say like, yeah, Full Metal Alchemist, like I've watched that. It's like, which one? Don't lie to me. Which one did you watch?
They're both like, good. I like the first one better though, even though it's I hate that. Or whatever.
I hate that.
The problem is that one of them doesn't have a subtitle because they didn't plan on making it again. But no, specifically the Blade Runner re-edits are like the equivalent of like being like trying to talk about Arrested Development season 4, and if you watched it when it came out versus if you watch it now, you get a different season. You know about that?
Oh, no, that's
no.
Weird.
Did they redo it?
Yeah, because all Arrested Development had a relatively tight, jumping all over the place between all those different storylines, editing style in the original show. But when Netflix got it and brought it back years later for season, I think it was 4. They kind of had character-focused episodes where each episode was built around a specific character storyline, and they kept kind of all converging at like this fair or whatever, where something was going to happen. So it kept like doing parallel storylines that all happened simultaneously, and then kind of showing how they all line up in the timeline or whatever. But it did the pacing and it wasn't the pacing and comedy that people were familiar with the show. So they re-edited the entire season. Like a year later or something. I haven't watched it still because I watched the original version of it. But like they re-edited the entire season, and that's the one you get now if you watch it. And you have to like scroll through the special features tab of the show in order to watch the original version of the season, which is still there, but not the one that shows up in the playlist. And it's like
it's like an enhanced.
That's a choice.
It's like going back to play The Witcher 1 and you only get the enhanced edition.
Yeah, but like
that's a lot of work, man.
Yeah,
that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's also just like someone's job. Like they're like, oh yeah, happy to be working.
I know. I just mean like, man, I don't know. Like that's really tough. Is like I'm just thinking from like a directorial standpoint.
Oh yeah,
like you directed these episodes, and then someone comes around and is like, okay, we're gonna like chop them into like little bacon bits and then put them together.
I don't know for sure, but I think the director might have been involved because I think the idea was that they responded to the feedback and they were making the 5th season more in line with the style of the original show and trying to correct that. And so while they were doing that, they re-edited the 4th season as either practice or to make it fit with the fact that it was going to be this one weird fucky season and they want people to come back.
But I mean, I'm just saying in the regard of like you film it the first time the way you want it, like the way you envisioned it. And now you have to go back and like try to redo it in a different way. Must be tough.
Filmmaking's a weird mess because so many people are involved in it all the time. Like that's why you keep having these 12 different directors cut versions of Blade Runner, where there's like there's the theatrical cut, and then there's the director's cut, and then there's the final cut, and you're like, what the fuck? The director's cut wasn't the definitive one? What do you mean? And like the
At
final,
least it's not as bad as Apocalypse Now.
yeah, and then Kingdom of Heaven.
I've never watched.
Kingdom of Heaven
seen
is
that.
this not Elijah Wood, the other guy from Lord of the Rings, Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
The other guy from
yeah,
the
yeah,
Lord of the
that's
Rings. You are
Yeah.
aware the Lord of the Rings has
he
so
was-
many guys.
He was Legolas.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
And then he was
Took me a
Legolas
second.
again in a shittier trilogy. Where
Oof,
he looked,
don't remind me of that.
And he looked weird the whole time.
Because they were trying to make him young.
They're trying to make him
which
younger, but he
doesn't
was
even
now
make sense.
older and he looks strange.
Oh yeah, because he was older as an actor.
Kingdom of Heaven is famous for having a completely botched theatrical cut that was just not a good movie, but then people raised the director's cut version as being like one of the best movies they've ever seen, and like it's just straight up a different film, like from front to back, because like it's re-edited fundamentally. And then you have really weird cases like Anchorman, where they had so much B footage and plot lines they cut and just so many scenes that they shot for whatever reason that they made an entire second movie out of the first movie, and it's like in the special features you can just watch a whole second movie basically from all the other shit that they didn't put in the real movie, and that's not the sequel. that's just on the that's just a weird, it's just a bunch of weird extra shit. But yeah, anyway, yeah, last time we talked about, kind of spur of the moment, we talked about recommending 5 movies next time, and so we all made our lists, and here we are.
So just to clarify, we're not doing spoilers today. We're not gonna spoil the movies that we're recommending.
you're recommending them, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
try
don't
not
want to
spoil
tell.
them.
Yeah, you don't want to usually spoil the movies you're recommending to people to watch. That's
Yeah,
the thing that happened in one of the movies I watched.
Oh. Oh, that's not good.
There's a fucking scene in one of these movies where it's like right at the beginning where somebody's sitting and watching this. They're reading a book at a bar. They're like, oh, and some random person shows up and they're like, oh, you're reading that? Yeah, that's great. And they're kind of like bonding for a second. They're like, oh yeah, it's so intense. Like, oh, archers, haha, and like little like that little moment. And but like clearly she's in the middle of this book. And he just like, so and so's father is actually da da da, and it's like, what are you doing? Like you fucking like shrink into yourself watching that scene because you're like, stop, no,
Oh.
why are you doing this? I figure we'll probably just take turns and just do one of what each of our lists and cycle around, and that'll be that. And that might even be the whole podcast, depending on how long we talk about these. It is 15 movies. And
I mean, we've been at it for half an
that's
hour
true.
already, and we haven't suggested any. I mean, not half an hour, but still.
not like 10 minutes, because the first
Yeah.
I had stuff to edit out at the beginning. We were waiting.
Yeah.
The
The bloopers.
and then Stephanie will come back like maybe next week or some other time and bring in her list.
From the dead. She will come back from the dead.
Who wants to go? You want to recommend us an anime, Andrew?
Yes.
Sure. Let's see. I guess they're not in any particular order. There's not like a top 5.
These aren't like the best movies or anything. It's just 5 recommendations.
Yeah. I'll start my recommendation with The Garden of Words, which is a
You mentioned this before, I think in the last... I think it was this one that you mentioned. I heard you talk about it recently.
Did I? I might have. It's a Makoto Shinkai film, which, if you don't know, he's a really, really good director. Made like all the good anime movies.
He made
All the
5
good-
centimeters per second.
All the good.
I did not
5
like
centimeters
that
per
one.
second. Weathering with You.
That's the only
What
one
is
I watched of
it?
I'm searching this movie, and every picture is the same gazebo.
That's where a lot of it takes place. Yeah.
Not a gazebo. Nobody knows what a gazebo is.
It's a gazebo in a forest or a garden.
No,
I
it's in
guess.
a park.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea is that it's like a basic synopsis here is that it is a high school boy who encounters a woman at a park bench under a canopy. What did you call it? The
Gazebo.
Gazebo.
a gazebo. There you go.
That is such a weird word.
Yeah,
It's
under a
a normal
gazebo.
word.
And they just interact. They just talk. They just talk to one another. And the boy is trying to. The boy has like a goal he's trying to achieve, and the woman is encouraging him. And it's just a really good movie about like relationship. Like just interacting with strangers. Like I don't know. It's really hard to describe it without spoiling a lot of it, but. It's definitely worth watching. It's also just gorgeous because all of his movies are just gorgeous.
It does look amazing, yeah.
But yeah, like if you look up, instead of looking at pictures, you look up GIFs and you'll see exactly just how fantastic it is. Just such good smooth animation. But yeah, it's available on Netflix, so you can watch it there if you have it.
Garden of Words.
Yep, Garden of Words.
This is by Comics Wave Films, the studio. They made. They also made 5 centimeters per second, so the animation is really good, actually. I mean, if it is like 5 centimeters per second.
Is it called 5 centimeters per second?
5 centimeters.
I think it's been a long while. I think it's because of time travel or something.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember watching it around the time I watched.
It's not about time travel. It's
it
just
definitely
about
looks like it's the same creator because it looks all the screenshots look like the same art style, but now pink.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a very particular looking style. It's just very fluid and realism focused. He also did like the girl, I think he also did the Girl Who Left Through Time, right? No, that was someone else. Sorry.
No.
But he did Your Name, Weathering with You, 5 centimeters per second.
Your Name gets recommended a lot too.
It is good. I would definitely recommend it, but I think it's not. I think Garden of Words is better, personally. I think
it's an interesting name. Does it have to do with the fact that they're just talking, and is like a play on that scenario, or?
I think the title is more of more of just like the setting, the idea that it is it's just talks that happen in a garden. Think of it like a good parallel is like Secret Garden, if you've ever heard of that movie. I think it's also a book. It's kind of the same in the sense of like there's just it's just them in what feels like their own little world when they're in this under this gazebo, and and so the idea is that that's where they can connect with one another, but otherwise they feel a lot more disconnect outside. I think I'm trying to think. There's somebody who did a movie or a review on it, but God, what's his name? I can't remember who did it. There's somebody who did like a YouTube breakdown of all of Makoto Shinkai's movies, and it was really good. And there's a better example that he can provide about why his movies are the way they are, but they're mostly just all of them are about love.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's my first recommendation. So who's next?
What do you got, Colonel?
So I have the latest movie that I've watched, and I took the initiative because of the year that we're in, 2020, and the movie is V for Vendetta, and it's a movie from I could open it and just know the dates and all that sort of stuff. I think it's from 2007.
2006.
2006.
Or, sorry.
Oh God, I made fan
2006. V for Vendetta is a movie that, like, everybody knows its influence, I think, in Anonymous and the Guy Fawkes mask that Anonymous has and all that. But I never had watched the movie, and I watched it because I heard that it had something to do with a virus.
What?
What?
Yeah,
who told you that?
There is a plot point that has to do with a virus. It's spoilery, if I tell, but it is not about virus. V for Vendetta is an interesting movie because it uses the language of fighting against an authoritarian fascist regime. and when I say it uses the language is it's explicitly authoritarian, fascist, white supremacist regime that the main characters fight against. But it uses the language while just being a normal Hollywood movie, really very, very infatuated with just going from scene to scene. And I think it works well. I liked watching it, but unfortunately, I don't think it really digs deep enough into the messages that are the messages that are there, down to the very end. I don't know if you both have watched it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I made fan art of it.
Down to the very ending, it's like I think it's a movie that sort of, if people are aware of what's going on in the world today, and I have a juxtaposition to watch as well. It's not anywhere near Netflix, so I didn't want to recommend it, but it is a really, really good movie. The one that I'm going to recommend, I'm talking about in a little bit. But V for Vendetta is just, I think it's going to resonate with us, if us who are living in 2020, seeing the rise of fascistic regimes throughout the world, and the rise of the influence of media in the propagation of hate and just...
It's based on a true story, right?
I think it's based on a book. It feels very 1984. There's a lot of parallels there. It's more hopeful than 1984, but I think it's also more naive. Especially, the movie is more naive than 1984. Because if you don't know how 1984 ends, it doesn't end well. It's really bad. But V for Vendetta is more hopeful, and I think a little bit more naive as well, because it's just, I don't know, the message gets a little bit muddy. The video, or the movie rather, that I compare it to is a Portuguese movie called I had it open. It's April Captains, I think. Let me see. I think that's how it's translated. Yeah, April Captains. It's in Portuguese, so if you are going to watch it, either you find a dubbed version or it needs to be with subtitles. And it's about our own taking down of our own fascist regime, like real life stuff, and it's like a very well studied and realistic depiction of what actually happened. So if you are looking for a fun time, both movies are really good. But if you're looking for something that is a little bit more, I don't know, realistic, and goes really deep into the interpersonal relationships of people who are about to bring a regime down, I think V for Vendetta is a little bit too Hollywood. I don't know. It just feels like, when I watched it, I felt like it was really interesting, because you see right from the beginning, you see the television, the stand-in for Fox News right at the beginning, and one of the main characters being immediately characterized as, "I don't like this," so you know where she's coming from. But the movie sort of drops all that sort of depth or language, I suppose, and just gets worried about the action scenes and stuff like that. So I don't know. I feel a little bit mixed, but it's a really interesting movie to watch.
I like the concept of a Nordic supremacist regime. Is that what Britain is that what like British people are afraid of? Is Nords taking over again?
No, I think they didn't want to come. That's the other thing. Like they are obviously.
I'm imagining like in America, you make a V for Vendetta, and it's like Canadian supremacist or something, and you're just like, dang it, those Canadians did it finally. They took us over. Like
the thing is, I actually wrote down something here. The thing is, like, the movie is made so that you can take away. That you can reasonably take away whatever message you want from it. Like, even if you're a fascist sympathizer, you can look at the movie and be like, "Oh yeah, speak to power." It's like,
can you?
Yeah.
Doesn't he like destroy the regime at the end? Yeah,
but the thing is, it's because there's so much. Like, there's a line that is not met with that is seen sympathetically later in the movie. That is Oppenheimer was able to. Oppenheimer is the dude the physicist dude that made possible the atomic bomb. There's a line that goes, Oppenheimer was able to change more than a course of a war. He changed the entire course of human history, which is wrong in the sense that if you're referring to World War II, but the movie just sees this as like a right thing, and that's where the virus comes in. It's sort of like a little bit of an analogy, and it's part of the story of the movie. But you can definitely, like, I've seen people come away talk about, no, not come away, because obviously I watched the movie recently, but the thing is, I've seen people talk about V for Vendetta as sort of like a oh yeah, let's bring down this PC culture, censorship and whatnot. Yeah, absolutely, because I think the main message of the movie is just the obsession with truth and speaking truth to power. And it sort of reminds me, I was watching the other day a video by of Rowan Atkinson talking about, it was from 2018, the video, and he was talking about he was basically talking about the notion of free speech, which is a thing that we talk about in the public discourse these days. The notion of free speech and the notion of censorship, not necessarily censorship from a governmental standpoint, which is what V for Vendetta deals with, but rather, from what is acceptable speech in public. And he says that traditional trope thing about, if you're gonna be intolerant of intolerance, you're just replacing one sort of intolerance with another, which sounds very smart. This is my words now. This sounds very smart, but the problem is, if you're against replacing one sort of intolerance with the other, then you're in favor of the intolerance that already exists, not the one that is intolerant of the intolerance. Do you know what I mean?
Not really.
Or did I get the message lost a little bit?
A little bit. I lost the thread a little bit.
Let's think of somebody talking against immigrants, which is a thing that the V for Vendetta deals with as well, like literally. But it only talks about them like once or twice. It's not very common. That's the thing. The movie rather, doesn't push the message far enough for it to be a central point of the storyline. But imagine like somebody is just against immigrants and against Muslims, and against people of color, and that sort of intolerance cannot be tolerated, right? But when you're not tolerating that intolerance, you're, in the words of Rowan Atkinson, you're replacing one sort of intolerance with another.
So what, the idea that because you're intolerant to intolerance, you've created
intolerant
intolerance?
yourself.
That's just garbage thought process.
Yeah. That kind of sounds just like that's like the nothing matters at all kind of nihilism.
No, but the problem is,
why just let people live because nothing matters?
It's
just
the
kill them
tolerance
all.
paradox, where you can't create a space that's inclusive and safe and non-discriminatory without specifically not tolerating certain behaviors, because those are what would cause it to be discriminatory.
But yeah, absolutely. But there's another point of view that might be a little bit more. What's the word?
Like a forum with moderators is ironically more tolerant than a place with no moderators.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're arguing, if your argument is that, oh, you shouldn't be intolerant of intolerance because now you're just intolerant yourself, you're really just prioritizing one sort of intolerance over the other, and you can't.
I mean, there are people who don't like equality. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's normal. That's the reason intolerance exists, is because there tends to be people that, you don't.
It's somebody that doesn't have ethics, basically.
Yeah.
Like they're not arguing from a real ethical point of view. They're instead just trying to win an argument via technicalities. It's like, so you're the real hypocrite at the end. It's like, don't pretend you believe in what you're saying right now, because it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's hollow arguments for the sake of winning.
But that sort of discourse, because the V for Vendetta sort of focuses so much on the speaking truth to power, I think that sort of discourse is why people can come away from the movie and just be like,
so V for Vendetta is the confluence of two different leftist voices that are constantly misinterpreted and repurposed for the right.
Alan Moore and David Lloyd, yeah.
Well,
I don't know David Lloyd.
No, Alan Moore and the Wachowski sisters.
Oh, did they make it?
Yes, they made the creators of The Matrix made V for Vendetta. aka
Oh, it's
red,
written by him,
aka
yeah.
red pilled and all that. Like, you know, the movie, the people use this metaphor for hating women and becoming these ultra independent supermen or whatever the fuck, but like it's made by two trans women. Like,
and it's an allegory for transition as well.
Yes, and it all really works as an allegory for being trans. And it was written by two at the time closeted trans people. Like, there's
Maybe that's why. Maybe
constantly
that's why it's so
happens.
conflicting.
And Alan
the V for
Moore
Vendetta,
is
I mean.
just a fucking like far left socialist. Like he's got a lot going on, and
Yeah.
He literally
his-
looks like
but-
Karl Marx.
Yeah, and his
He does a
material,
little bit, yeah.
his material, especially V for Vendetta and Watchmen, are constantly misinterpreted and repurposed by people that don't understand it and embarrass themselves, kind of like people that are on the right and love Rage Against the Machine. Like it's really
Yeah.
fucking cringe.
You
You
guys
go and
really
watch
took away
any comments on YouTube on Rage Against the Machine, and you see people
Oh
being
my
very
god! When Rage
conflicted.
Against the Machine gets played at like a Republican rally, you're like, you guys don't get any of this.
There's a
Well-
song where they list what is it called? It's he just repeats all of these are American dreams. All of this is American dreams. I don't remember what that song is, but like, he's like that's the most explicit anti-imperialist song ever, and
There's
you
a-
still can come across.
Well,
people
you can
who think
you
it's
can
the
it's
So-
it's just a separation of you can just listen to the music and enjoy it and not pay attention and not care about what the lyrics stand for or anything.
Well, yeah,
People do that all the time.
There was a period of me being like well, it's everyone's teenage years, basically. Like, when you're a teenager, in many cases, you're kind of apolitical, in part because you kind of don't understand
Yeah,
most things really yet. But you do
Yeah.
know that you have a lot of intense emotions because that's what being a teenager is. And so a lot of being a teenager is glomming onto a bunch of media because of how it kind of feeds specific emotions along the way and just kind of gives you that catharsis here and there. So when I was a teenager, V for Vendetta was actually my favorite movie. But at this point, I straight up haven't watched it in like 8 years probably. So I need to rewatch it and also reread it. I have a copy of it here, which I read V for Vendetta in college, and I want to reread it now too. It's very different. Like there's literally musical chapters in a book
Interesting.
form. V for Vendetta was an interesting read, but I feel like I need to reread and rewatch it as an adult because I think it would hit differently in certain ways, and it also might.
I'm sure it would.
And,
Yeah,
and the movie might prove to be kind of disappointing as an adult. But I straight up had without even knowing they were related to each other as a teenager. I was like, "Oh, V for Vendetta is my favorite movie," and then Watchmen came out, and I was like, "Now this is my favorite movie." But
Watchmen is really good. I really enjoyed it.
thoroughly moved on from both. The comic's definitely better than the movie in Watchmen's case. The movie's kind of
I watched it when it came out
because it's made by somebody who idolizes Ayn Rand. So it's a very broken interpretation of it. Like he claims to be making panel for panel recreations of it, but every little change he makes style wise shows his lack of understanding of what it's even supposed to be, and he really misrepresents a lot of things, and he does a lot of weird creepy choices and just strange things like how the scene where a sexual assault happens is shot in a way that sexualizes the victim, which means which means it's being framed to as if you're almost supposed to agree with the assaulter and stuff like that. And like there's all these sorts of weird moments and like major changes to how this plot ends up and so on, including the entire ending. There's a lot of weird choices.
You guys definitely like got a lot more out of this movie than I did. I thought it was just like I thought it was just Daredevil but without the blindness.
But you can definitely see that interpretation. Are you talking about
literally,
Vendetta?
it's literally a movie about political terrorism.
Yeah, because
there's not a lot
I
of
get
that, but it didn't seem. I don't know. I guess it didn't really hit me as I like the political part was very backseat.
Yeah,
where I
absolutely.
was definitely when I watched it more focused on like, okay, when's he gonna do something cool next?
Well, that's
like
the
he's
thing.
saying.
Like that's especially like the teenager experience of like back then I just watched it and it's just this movie about like rising up and kicking some ass and so on. Like the same way that a lot of like these like dystopian post-apocalyptic young adult fiction stories will appeal to teenagers, and you're just like, oh yeah, Katniss is gonna beat the bad guys, but then like when you're an adult you go back to it and you're like and it all hits differently, and that's either for the better or for the worse. And a lot of stuff like that, like V for Vendetta will hit me differently if I watch it now, And like a lot of music does that, like fucking when you're a kid, it's like, haha, he keeps saying chocolate rain, and it's like it's just a funny, weird meme song. But then you actually go back to Chocolate Rain as an adult, and you're like, oh, fuck, this song's distressing.
I have a lot of that experience listening to heavy metal with bands like Pantera and Megadeth.
Or like,
and they just go back and, oh my god, they are no.
Yeah, or listening to Killing in the Name by Rage Against the Machine in 2020. Yeah. Like some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses. It's a song about the history of the police recruiting from the KKK and the deeply racist institution that it's been from the outset, because it was literally created to recapture slaves. Yeah, you don't think about that so much when you're 14 and you just want to hear the guy shout and scream "Killing in the Name of" and da da da. Now you do what they told you, and it's just like a fun sounding song. But yeah, if you never, it's really fucking embarrassing though if you grow up to be an adult. And then you're like, oh yeah, Rage Against the Machine is my favorite band, and you've still like never even tried to interrogate any of it. It's like, oh, what's your favorite? Really, that's your favorite media in the world, and you've never even like really thought about it for a minute, like just for a minute, because like because similarly, like to talk about something aging in the opposite direction. Get the lyrics real quick.
I really wish I knew the song of the other Rage Against, the song that I.
Oh yeah, it's most of the songs that they hit hard. But yeah, like I used to like as a teenager, I would listen to Critical Acclaim by Avenged Sevenfold, and it was just like, these big cathartic rants and yelling, and it just sounds cool when you're a teenager. But then you listen to the song as an adult, and you're like, oh no, they're Bush apologists. This song sucks. Like the rant that felt cathartic when you weren't thinking about it and didn't fully understand it is really fucked up. It's like, how does it feel to know that someone's kid in the heart of America has blood on their hands fighting to defend your rights so you can maintain a lifestyle that insults his family's existence? Well, where I'm from, we have a special salute that we aim high in the air for all those pompous assholes who spend their days pointing fingers. And it's like, hey, how dare you judge the war in Iraq, you evil leftists? You're insulting the troops. Like, yeah, they're such trash.
Yeah. You say, like, we're not that different of age. I think we're like 3 years apart, maybe.
Yeah.
But I started listening to Avenged Sevenfold when I was like 20 something. So maybe not right at the beginning, but I remember the song that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't have the same experience as you do in terms of, like, I always saw them. Yeah.
You didn't get hoodwinked over time.
No, I think the thing is the impression Bush left on me, but even on people around me. I think in the world, I would go as far as say the impression Bush left in the world of the American political and even like the people, like it is different than the impression it left on the people of America. I feel I still think that the world. You're just
describing like both Bushes.
Oh, yeah,
I'm talking
about the last one.
Lindsay Ellis did a really good video about music during the Iraq War and how, all throughout American history and just everyone's history, really, like whenever wars happen and so on, there's often art dealing with that period. Mm-hmm. And there's often a lot of like protest stuff because really almost basically all wars are just bullshit and should have never occurred and are being fought under false pretenses and so on. And people are dying for no real purpose.
Money is the most important thing of all, and
that's
there's only
the
one
connection.
way to get it.
That's the connection that V for Vendetta doesn't make, by the way, Andrew. Yeah. What you're saying is the problem with the ultimate message of V for Vendetta. It doesn't connect the lines.
What, capitalism?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
But the appalling takeaway was just how every musician was just gargling Bush's balls throughout the United States, and it's because in the specific way that we were
really
because of 9/11 and the specific way that we were attacked and so on. It all got very deftly all redirected as this rage in a particular direction and this united thing where it was such a crime to speak out against any of it. And it's like this huge embarrassing period for people that actually, grew up and looked at it at some point, just realizing like, wow, this, we really got fucking, we basically were just collectively tricked.
It's very infectious.
We were sold the idea of a war that wasn't even related to the thing like wasn't even particularly related to the attack that sparked the excuse for the war, and didn't really accomplish much. And we were basically being we still haven't really recovered as a nation from like just the endless like gung ho patriotism where we have to all like bring together the bulwark and all stand together against these things. It's like, no, maybe we should be questioning the systems and the choices going on here. But it's like, you're anti-American. What are you? You probably are a terrorist.
I think the analysis.
I mean, probably.
I think the analysis that of the role of the media in that, both in the Bush era as well as more recent, and it definitely the lines can be drawn as well with old style fascism, and with V for Vendetta as well. The role of media is so crucial in understanding how people get the opinions they get, and that sort of hate and that sort of like jingoistic nationalism really is toxic in the sense that it contaminates. Like it's very difficult to steer away from. Because once you're in there, it's very, very hard because you need to not only do you need to think contrary to everything that the world tells you, and I can only imagine, obviously, that because I'm not an American, and I can only imagine how difficult it must be for an American person to break out of the mold. But also, not only do you need to think, you also need to go against the current, like actively, and be different. And especially when you're alone and there's nobody in the media to point you anywhere, it can be. I imagine it is absolutely. It's an exception, right? If somebody does it, it's an exception.
I mean, there's often like the fear of exclusion aspect where it's like you're surrounded by people that'll think a certain way. So if you step out of line, then you're going to be like kicked out of that group. And there's even people in this country that are several layers deep. Like, say you live in Salt Lake City and you're a Mormon, like you're not even close to being ready to question some of these other ideas because you're still like having to groupthink with everybody else on like that entire like religious order, and the way that like that if you step out of line, they do like excommunicate you not just from the church but basically from like your friend groups in society, because there's several groups in this country that actively work in a way where they discourage any sort of dissent by actively cutting people out if they do it, which makes everyone terrified to do anything. And it's just
which is it's funny to me, like that should be.
You want to talk about cancel culture? Dixie Chicks got completely literally canceled for saying Bush was bad, which is fucking insane to think about now.
In an interview, not even in a song. It was like
dare they not like George Bush, hero and definitely not a war criminal.
I don't know. There's at some point I start getting tired of constantly hearing about stuff like Bush being bad, but then you just like, okay, well, when did it stop being like when did it start being this way? And then you start going back and back and back, and you're like, wait, it's always been this fucking way. Are you guys just ever gonna do anything about it? It's like, well, no, we're not gonna let it happen. You're not, it's like, are you? Because this is history.
You're not allowed to question this, Andrew, or you'll get an Avenged Seven song written about you.
Fuck,
all the way from the east to the west, we got this high society looking down on their very foundation, constantly reminding us that our actions are the cause of all their problems, pointing their fingers in every direction and blaming their own nation for who wins election. They never contributed a fucking thing to the country they love to criticize. That's their take on it. How dare you criticize any of this stuff? How dare you question if like, oh, are our institutions racist, or maybe our systems are bad? First, it's like, oh, but you live in a society. Great, thanks for the takeaway. Avenged Sevenfold, you trash brains.
By the way,
I don't see it. I don't know. That's just weird. It's always been weird to me to see to see like the idea of not being able to question a group, not being able to say like, this is weird, isn't this stupid? And people just like, no, it's perfect. It's like, no, that's pretty stupid. If you think like something is perfect on the first try, you're crazy wrong. Yeah.
We live in a country where we're running by the rules that were written by a bunch of slave owners hundreds of years ago. We've amended
them a couple of times, but we don't talk about that because then it would like ruin the illusion that we're not allowed to mess with the Constitution.
I hear you talk about the second time a lot. But the second time you amended it.
I mean, the Second Amendment made a lot of sense when you didn't want
you didn't have automatic guns.
Well, you didn't want your government with like muskets to come by and steal your crops, so it was easier if you had a musket that you could then shoot at the musketeers that were trying to steal your crops.
That's not why it was made, though.
That's not why the idea is you can defend your country. The idea is defend your country.
Did you look into it? Did you know the reason why?
It's for local states to create their own militia so they can defend against a federal. No.
Yeah, it's connected.
No.
The reason why it was passed in the South is because it was sold to certain states as a good way to prevent slaves from running away.
If you read the Second Amendment, it exists to give states.
No, I'm not talking about the Second
build.
Amendment, like the text itself. I'm talking about like the historical context of it.
Yeah, the reason the Second Amendment exists is to prevent the federal government from being an authoritarian regime. Like it's in there.
I know. It's
literally
in there.
The Constitution.
Yeah, absolutely. But like the implications and the historical context has to do with slaves and stopping them from running away.
How does that stop them from running away?
Because you have guns.
What?
Yeah.
You could.
I mean, fair.
Yeah,
everyone had guns though. Like
but if it wasn't enshrined in the Constitution, maybe the government could take it away, and then you wouldn't. Your slaves would run away.
The government was pro-slavery. They would, of course, want you to have guns so you could protect your property. Slaves didn't count. The idea, slaves weren't people, so there was no laws against hurting them because they're not
the government
people.
was pro-slavery, but there was no police.
But what?
And the first police that happened was precisely to hunt the slaves down as well. In the United States. Because slaves didn't count as people, so there was no crime you could commit against slaves. No. It was like specifically slave hunt. I think I'm talking
I think Andrew said
Kansas
the government.
Or Arizona?
I'm pretty sure Andrew said the government was pro-slavery.
Oh yeah.
The government's pro-slavery.
You said it like
to
you're
a point
contradicting
where
that, but that's what he said.
Oh. No, I'm just sort of like adding. Yeah, sorry. I can send you some links.
The concept here is like a lot of the Constitution is built out of
scholar.
A lot of it's built out of spite for where we left, which is we didn't want to live in another authoritarian regime, aka monarchy style. And so you have a lot of stuff to prevent that from happening. Like everyone's allowed to have guns because if the country starts turning into a regime, you can just shoot at them, which makes a lot of sense.
It's the most ironic thing ever because of what is going on right now.
Well, yeah, but the people who are being subjugated aren't the ones who want guns. Yeah, that's the problem.
That's why it's ironic.
If you read
it's a disaster. I constantly get fed this line that the reason why people constantly stockpile guns is so they can rise up against their government and so on. But simultaneously, they're the same people that tout the line about ultra patriotism and how if you don't like it, why don't you move? And all these protesters, all blah 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 blah. And it's like, what? But that's why you're stockpiling guns. That's the reason you always give. You've given this answer so many times to me, and it doesn't. But it's not because you don't support resistance and you don't support criticism of the country, but you're stockpiling guns so that you can rise up against them. And I'm like, I can't process this dissonance. I can't deal with it.
Yeah. Because it's not an argument. It's never an argument made in good faith.
No, it's never made in good faith. It's just like how whenever a black person gets shot, they're always like, "Well, he had a gun." And it's like, yeah, the things you said we're supposed to have.
The house next door smelled like weed. It doesn't
count when he has it.
His boyfriend wasn't sleeping. Her boyfriend wasn't sleeping.
I mean, the thing is just it made a lot of sense when you had 10,000 people living in your shitty poor ass fucking country that you don't want to get taken over by another country. And now that we're 300 million people strong, it kind of seems like a dumb fucking idea to let everybody have a goddamn gun and they can just shoot at each other at any time. And it's like, well, how do you police that if everyone can have a gun? But if they have the gun, you have to kill them because it's a threat to the police officers, right? Even if they're not using it.
You only kill them if they're not white. Don't forget about that.
No, that still happens though. There are people who just have a right to carry a gun, get seen with a gun, and get shot. It's there's just you have no set laws about how these work because each state gets to define how gun laws work.
What was the name of the little kid that had the
toy gun that got shot?
The toy gun? No. It was like a cell phone cover that looked like a gun.
I don't know.
Trayvon Martin, was that the one?
No, that's not Trayvon Martin.
Oh, no, Trayvon
Martin was just literally walking down the street with a hood.
Are you talking about the guy in Sacramento that got shot in a backyard?
I think so. Yeah, I think he had mental issues as well.
I was like,
Dude,
I was living nearby when that happened. It was like
People
it's
die.
Local news.
People die in this country like every fucking day from guns. I can't keep track of it anymore.
I have
It's just like
the ending of the song that I was thinking of.
also
Rage
we
Against.
just completely forget this list.
Yeah, no,
we're going back.
We've made it two
We're getting
movies deep, and we're like,
Yeah, we
we're
gotta
almost
go
an hour
back.
in.
The song is called "Know Your Enemy," and the ending is literally compromise, conformity, assimilation, submission, ignorance, hypocrisy, brutality, the elite, all of which are American dreams. I know my enemies. This is the end of the song. Like Rage Against is so explicitly.
Yeah, and you have to
explicitly
actively
anti-
ignore every single word he's saying.
I mean, the joke is
to be
always what
certain kinds
machine
of
do you-
people and a fan.
Yeah, the joke
Yeah.
is always like, what machine do you think they're raging against? Is like, what do you think they're raging
Yeah.
against? Like, you know, an ATM? Like, no, you fucking idiots, against the government.
But then you look. Do you know that "Don't Tread on Me" snake on that yellow? I don't remember
Yeah,
the
the
name of
libertarians.
Yeah, because then you also have that. They are also very anti the machine in a way, and I
No,
think that's why
they're-
they can ignore
they're
certain
like
aspects.
they're faux
They're faux for
anti-machine.
sure. But like, it also appeals to their sense of independence and their sense of like, that sort of. I think that's that, at least that's what I get for a lot of people is the appeal of that sort of. I hesitate to call it a redneck style sort of, independence because it's a bit of a stereotype. I don't know if it's correct, but I think that might be the reason why. And the thing I'll try to remind myself of a lot is that it's very easy for some people to ignore parts of the things that they're seeing. Denying reality is a very usual habit for a lot of people. So,
I mean, most of them are rewarded for doing it.
yeah.
There's no punishment for being ignorant to how things work, because most of the people who are ignorant aren't going to be affected by change in the world that doesn't benefit others. Like I'm not going to be affected no matter what happens at the end of the day, but that doesn't mean it's okay to just be ignorant of what's going on just because it's never going to affect me.
The school
think-
books say it can't be here again. The prisons make you wonder where it went.
Is it talking about slavery?
Yeah.
Because
Raised your neighborhood insurance rates. Makes us happy living in a gate.
Is that Avenged Sevenfold again?
No, this is Chocolate
No,
Rain.
That's
Oh.
chocolate rain.
If you read it without saying Chocolate Rain every other line and just focus on what's happening between each one, you're like, it's fucking brutal. It's just
Yeah,
fucking
it's-
brutal.
It's just but it's always been that way. It's just, again,
Yeah.
it's one of those, people just don't listen to music
Rick-
like that. They just listen, they just listen to the actual music.
Regarding what you just said, Andrew, about just because it doesn't affect you, it doesn't mean that you're allowed to not give a damn. That video that I watched from Rowan Atkinson that I was mentioning before, behind him, there was a poster that said, because it was about freedom of speech and what, censorship and stuff like that. There was a poster saying, "Feel free to insult me anytime," or something like that. And my immediate thought was, that's very easy to say when you're a white cis rich dude in Britain.
I mean, my initial train of thought is, I have enough resources and the means and the ability to just leave this country whenever I want to.
But you need to think about the people who don't. Like, I think
I can, but there
You
are
can,
plenty of
but-
people who don't have to, because they can also just leave and they don't have to give a shit about how it goes. Some of them don't have to leave because nothing will change for them.
that's another aspect.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, to me, the way I always view it is just like, well, if it doesn't work, I'll just leave. I'll just bail.
And that's why things like climate change are so, like, they're so racially relevant.
Well,
in the sense that racism is relevant for climate change, because the
Climate change is
rich will be able-
it's a different issue, because there's not really an end game that works with climate change.
yeah,
Like,
for
you can't be like, yeah, but we're going to use all our money to like stop the fire. It's like, well,
But yeah,
okay, like, sure, I guess you can live in Jetson style homes in 2055 because there is no Earth you can live on anymore.
But you
I
can't deny
guess.
that you can't deny that it is, and it is affecting right now, and it is going to affect always first and foremost the people without the means to avoid it.
Well,
the people
it's
who
just
didn't do
it's
anything.
just a hypocritical thing of people saying, I don't want, like people say, I don't want more immigration. Okay, well, stop destroying the planet where people live so they have to immigrate.
Yeah.
Like, stop, being, or like, oh, okay, what about people who need to leave because their countries are just terrible? It's like, well, I've never lived in a bad country, so they don't deserve to live here. It's like, they didn't choose that. They didn't just wake up one morning and say cool, country's being taken over, awesome, like we've done to several countries. Maybe.
Yeah, basically all of South America is affected by the drug laws in the US,
but
for
you don't
example,
have to
let alone
you don't
everything
have to
else.
think about that stuff because you're in America and it's fine
Yeah.
here. And when it's not fine here, then you're probably
But
either
at the
going to
same
die
time-
here or you can just leave.
But at the same time, the education system, it doesn't tell you about this. The mass media doesn't tell you
Nope.
about
And
this.
Trump wants it to tell us about it even less.
He
they
says
want
the
it to-
opposite.
Well, no, we're going to learn about America, right? About the history of
Yeah,
America.
he had this big. Hopefully, hopefully it does nothing. But he's trying to make it even more patriotic focused and make it even more brainwashy. It's
But the thing
creepy.
is, when he tries to do that, he has an effect even if he doesn't pass any legislation. Because
Yeah.
so many
Does he?
teachers, I mean, maybe not the majority, but so many teachers are Trumpists, and so many teachers are nationalists like that. They will follow
they'll take
that.
the signal. Because curriculums are decided by the local government, and a lot of those local governments might follow his example.
Yeah.
I mean, we already have that.
They
That's
already
why-
were. We go to a school where you like a bunch of fascists. You line up and you pledge to your allegiance to the flag as a child, and then you get taught a sanitized version of your history, where ultimately you're the heroes.
That is what happened here in Portugal before 1974. That is literally what happened.
Yeah.
The locals deciding how, local governments deciding what to teach is the reason we have Confederate flag problems still. It's because fucking jackasses still taught about racism as patriotism. They're like, oh, but this flag meant that they cared about America. It's like, then why did they rebel against the country that is what it is today?
Against the
It's
United States.
They just were so passionate. It's like, yeah, passionate about owning people. What the fuck? Get out of here, dude. It's not a question. We have history books. We have literal history that we can look at.
Our history curriculum's so bad that people grow up unironically thinking that the Civil War didn't have anything to do with slavery.
Which is
Yeah,
it's
I
next
get
level
that
shit.
impression as well.
That's about as stupid as the dinosaurs didn't exist because the Bible didn't have them in
The
it.
devil
and
put the
it's
bones there. Ha!
Yeah, the devil put the bones there. God, could you imagine? What a next level waste of time the devil is having. He's just creating bones in his little fucking hovel hole.
I
and he's
believe it if he's anything
these
like-
people are going to be.
If the devil's anything like Loki, then I believe it, because that guy just fucking he'll spend 3 years on a prank.
Him and his dragon bones.
That
No,
literally
dinosaur
feels like
bones.
what
He'll
what
birth
most
a
of-
he'll birth a spider horse just to prank somebody. Loki's fucking crazy. But on the
Loki's
topic
the
of
stuff.
lyrics, the bell curve blames the baby's DNA, but test scores are how much the parents make. The same crime has a higher
Yep.
price to pay. The judge and jury swear it's not the face. Dirty secrets of the economy turns that body into GDP. Chocolate Rain's fucking brutal. It's just Jesus fucking
It is
Christ.
talking about all that.
People
yeah.
were just like, "Wow, look at this funny viral video. He leans away. He leans away from the microphone to breathe." It's like you come back 10 years later, you're like, this is. Come back in 2020, it's like this is a fucking brutal song to look at. You're like, oh no.
But that's what I mean by nothing ever changes, and I'm kind of getting tired of it because that song isn't new.
No.
It's very, very old. What
But
is Chocolate
the thing
Rain,
is, that
70s?
tiring that you're feeling,
right?
and that I'm feeling, and we're young still.
Not
That
not
is
guy.
how. Sorry.
No,
didn't hear.
when you look up Chocolate Rain, the fucking
Oh.
meme is taken over. So trying to find anything about the actual original song is oh,
The
you
thing-
mean the guy who sang it? No, not.
What I was gonna say is that the thing is that tiredness that you're talking about. That is what gives context to. We look back and we look at all the activists and fighters like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. that fought and down to their last breath, and they spoke up and they dedicated their lives. They were tired all along. They were tired a lot more because they were exposed to they weren't privileged like us, at least in terms of skin color. And
then all of their efforts get co-opted.
That's yeah.
So we get because Martin Luther King nowadays is used to spin this myth that like the United States was this racist country until Martin Luther King, the saint, just came by and then fixed racism, and now it's over, and now nothing's racist anymore. And that's the that's the line that people on the right constantly toe, is this idea that all racism is over, institutional racism is a myth that people use as an excuse for their own real failings and all these other nonsense things. And they it's like the Joan of Arc thing where they fucking retroactively deify this person, but like Martin Luther King wasn't popular. He wasn't liked at the time. He was literally assassinated.
He was killed.
Yes. Fuck.
Yeah.
And he was assassinated
and
by the country,
over and over
by
again.
our own country.
Like the country hated him. He didn't fix shit. We just retroactively commodify his image now to spin the idea that we're all better now.
Well, no, we do it because otherwise it's just platitudes. It's to say like, okay, black voters, please don't hate us. Remember Martin Luther King? We think he's a good guy. And they're like, well, he supports Martin Luther King's teachings. It's like, no, I don't. I just think he's a good guy. Don't like read too much into this. And like that's how every political party works when it comes to like talking to any minorities. It's like, we like this person. It's like, oh, really? It's like, yeah.
You give him a holiday and you pay lip service to him on that day. And you completely reject every single fucking thing he ever had to say.
The fact that there's like Martin Luther King is a holiday, but also President's Day, which is like, wasn't the majority of these guys slave owners? Well,
and also,
George Washington's birthday is a holiday. He's like, didn't he own slaves? He was just the first president. What did he do that was impressive? And it was like,
don't you also have Columbus Day?
No, Columbus isn't a federal holiday, I don't believe.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe we get a day off.
That is even more fun.
We do have it. It is a holiday, but we don't have it. I don't think we get the day off.
It's just a day, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Columbus never even touched...
You only hear about Columbus Day because sometimes people are like, it's a Columbus Day sale, because people will make any day a sale.
Yeah, it's just a...
No,
Columbus Day is also...
kind of a fraud.
Well, I mean, yeah, Columbus is obviously a scam artist, but the idea is like Columbus Day exists because
and a terrible person, slavery,
because of American racism, which is like fantastic. You have to like you use that kind of fake story to make Americans not hate people because they're like, oh, this guy found America. Wow, that's awesome. It's like no,
with all the people already there,
yeah,
millions and millions of people.
Oops. Just happened to discover it, and then Indians appeared. Just out of nowhere.
Killed them all.
No one knew how that happened.
Well, he killed the ones in the island that he arrived at. To be fair, he didn't murder the ones in the, like...
Well, because he didn't discover the Americans.
He didn't go there, yeah. He just murdered everybody there and raped everybody there.
Colonel has posted a screenshot of somebody being like, racism discussion in a 2007 Mass Effect game? Surely you're joking. And he can't spell Shirley, which is even better.
I'm not sure if they're trying to be cute, but I remember because
I just ban those people whenever I see them.
Maybe
they're too stupid to fix.
Maybe he's asking somebody named Shirley.
It's literally the episode it's literally the part of Mass Effect that discusses racism. So it's not even like the commentators bringing it in. It's the part where Ashley has that racist talk that she has. Like it's explicitly a conversation about racism, but that's just what it is.
And the thing is, I deconstructed it to the extreme as best I could, so I went really deep on that. Yeah. And, I like the game itself lets you just take.
What are
your
you,
own
some sort of person who experiences art and then commentates on it? That's not your job. Stop that. How dare you talk about the mug in part 3 of your Disco Elysium playthrough like some sort of weirdo?
I'm finally watching Disco Elysium, your playthrough. I haven't gotten to day 4 yet, but
yeah, the mug is just part 3, and it's seared into my brain what part it is because it's just the comments constantly come in and I just constantly ban people. It's a great filter.
Oh, I still need to finish playing that.
You still need to do part 2.
Yeah, I got distracted.
You've only played 1 episode.
Keith, did you get to the multi-billionaire, ultra-billionaire guy? Did you ever find him?
Yeah. Yeah, the guy that bends.
Yes, that is
he's
such a
the guy
great-
that's so rich that he bends time and space.
Yeah, that is so fantastic. No spoilers,
There's,
though. And also off topic.
That's yeah.
We're very off topic. We're off
just-
topic
yeah.
from our off topic.
We can go back. We can go back.
Yeah, like I remember watching. I watched Keith's playthrough of what's it called? I just forgot the name now. Outer Worlds.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I watched that one.
The
And-
one that's
yeah, so-
once explicitly about these topics.
Yeah, but you're
But
like
also doesn't
a
go
lot
very
of-
deep. To be
No,
fair,
a lot
it's
of
not.
yours is
No.
like yeah, a lot of yours is like going through and talking about stuff that's bad and like really why it's bad, and then making like informed choices about, you know, based on these things. And it felt so
Yeah.
weird, like as a juxtaposition for me, where I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, you know, I do agree with Keith, these are really bad things. But my decisions are just like, yeah, but I don't have time for this, and I just blow the brains out of every person who gets
just
in the
kept
way
shooting
of what
people?
I want. Yeah, like I just kept shooting. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, guys, it's really bad to do capitalism, and I'm like blowing the brains out of a boss, and I'm like, all right, get out of the way. I just need you to like do the thing I want, and so I just
Class
like
war.
pushes. Yeah, like I
Fight me
just
on
push.
this.
Well, that's the thing is like I don't have time to try to like slowly convince someone to do the right thing. I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna move your
Andrew.
body out of the way. I'm going to look down and say, you get this place, you get this place. All of you leave me alone. I'm gonna go into space. And then everybody's
Andrew
like,
is the ultimate tanky.
Yeah, I constantly
I
get
just-
people going like, "How dare you introduce politics into this?" And like, bitch, I'm here to experience art, and art's about stuff. Asshole, get out of here! If you're this dumb, I'm just gonna. I don't even argue anymore. I just ban people that are that fucking dense because it's such a fucking like cave brain.
Yeah,
take
it's very
of just like
tiring.
I'm work. You're just not operating on much. Like you just
Yeah,
don't.
I-
You're the fucking people that love Rage Against the Machine without ever learning of what
Yeah.
any of it's about. Like,
Yeah.
if you
I
go
just-
through Outer Worlds or Disco Elysium and not even process the idea that it's about anything, I was like, I don't even want to relate to you, and I want you to go away because every time you speak, it's just going to make me less happy, and I have to like my job to keep doing it.
yeah, that's the thing is like I feel like I definitely understand the problems, but I don't agree with the solutions to solving them. And I think that is the problem I always have with most media, is that I agree with like the message. We're like, yeah, that's true. That's a good message. I should take that. Like I agree with what you're saying, but I don't agree with like the option that most people take, which is the, you know, like the slow, methodical, over time, changing things for the better. It's like, no, just bulldoze your way through.
The liberal fantasy. Like, I can fix it from the inside within the system
Yeah,
by just
or I'm
voting.
my
It's
thing
not
is like
necessarily-
my thing is I burn both houses down and I go, okay, now only one person gets to rebuild, and then I look at the other people like, you can't, nope, don't do it. I'll shoot you.
Yeah, but
stay where
that
you
works
are.
well in a fantasy world.
Oh yeah, but that's why I like
Yeah.
games like Outer Worlds, where it's like I can just do that. Where someone's like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
the big
Very
bad guy, and you
cathartic.
have to convince me to be good. And I'm like, no, I don't. Boom, shoot you in the head. I'm gonna go sit down now. You guys are good people. Here's the land, and I walk away.
You're
And
gonna
people are
like-
like, I guess.
I had that same moment in the like major choice at the end of the game of the Outer Worlds. You're gonna like that when you
there
reach
was several times when I was tempted to just shoot people.
I
did
I
that
didn't
so-
even hesitate. Like I literally walked into a room and someone was like, look, I'm gonna give you a proposition. I will do all the things you want, but you need to wipe out these people. And I was like, okay.
Oh, you're talking about the
Alternative-
same one that I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I was like,
Well, also killed them all.
alternative.
I
Yeah,
killed
like,
them all, so.
Yeah, I was like, alternatively, I could back out of the conversation, shoot you in the head, kill all of your guards, walk out, go to the board of directors, take everyone out, walk over, turn the key, free the guy, and just end the game? And be like, all
Oh
right,
no,
I
you're
did
talking
it.
about the other character. I did that later.
No,
Okay,
that's how I
see.
did for every single solution. Every problem is like, I have the character you care about, but you need to do a bad thing if you want to free them. I was like, or I
Yeah.
can just annihilate your entire country. And I
in
just
pretty
wipe
much
them
e-
all out. And I
think in pretty
like,
much every region of Outer Worlds, you meet the shittier people first.
you
And
do,
then they tell you
yeah.
to go deal with the other people, and then the other people are like, but actually nuance or reason here, and they also kind of suck, but for different reasons. But generally speaking, you still pretty much always end up going back and taking out the first shittier person that you met because they were way worse. Like, that was just the pattern
Yeah.
on every planet.
I never.
So
I
you
didn't
could just
spot that
skip the
pattern.
process by just shooting them immediately, and it's probably why
Oh, you're the first one.
why Andrew's playthrough wasn't very long.
Yeah, my playthrough was really short. Even like Gorgon made like the new DLC that came out made a lot less sense because it tries to like add nuance to a decision that I long overcame, which is like, oh, we're gonna try to like build deeper on this this backstory of like why this, you know, why the company is bad. I'm like, oh, I just wiped it out though. And they're like,
I haven't finished it yet, but I think it goes a little bit deeper though.
But that's the thing is like
Not if you
most
just
of
shoot
Outer
'em.
Worlds, yeah, not if you just shoot them. And that's the thing, like Outer Worlds doesn't really have a story balance for like pure anarchy. And they even like I saw an interview for the Path of Gorgon DLC, and they're like, we solved that problem. We're gonna make it so people, even if you just want to shoot your way through, you'll still get a different experience for that. No, I didn't. That's an absolute lie. I got the exact same experience that I would have if I had followed the rules.
I'm enjoying
like
Barrel on Gorgon a lot.
Yeah, it just I finished it in like 2 sessions? Because
it's not a very long game, even if you're
RPG
rambling
slot
about
is
every
so
dialogue.
fucked. It's so fucked.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to get through Anachronox, but I'm also trying to get through Wasteland, but also like it takes so much time to edit each session, so like I have to have a backlog of Anachronox prepared, because like if like for example tomorrow I have an RPG video due, and I don't have any RPG videos recorded. So like it's like, oh, it's the weekend and Andrew's free, like that's probably when I should record Wasteland, but I won't be able to edit it in time for tomorrow's time slot, so I need to record Anachronox today instead. But like because it's 2020 and everything's just getting worse every day, even though I've like re-edited my schedule and so on, I'm always kind of like running on like a half battery, and I'm like I haven't had any of those like days lately or weeks where I like, oh man, I got like 2 days of work done today, cool, and like I'm like ahead of schedule. I'm always just kind of like kicking the stone slightly further down the road at an even pace that never quite accelerates.
If I can help in any way, let me know. I don't know how I could, but because I have some, I am on the opposite. I'm lucky with the games that I'm playing, so I just want to play them.
Yeah. It's a mess because like what was it? It's just been bad. Everything sucks. Around the time that The Last of Us came out,
affected.
Yeah, there's been a series of things. Around the time during The Last of Us stuff, especially since I got the whole game done in like a week, for like the next month or so, I was like 2 weeks ahead of schedule, and it was great all the time, and I could just pretty much just record whatever I wanted on a given day, and like that. And I was always like slightly ahead of schedule every day, and so on. It was going great, but like for like the last month now, it's just been not working, and I can't get any momentum going. So it's a bit frustrating because it's like, yeah, it makes that kind of thing really hard to get done, but at the same time, like, oh, but I want to get Wasteland 3 and Anachronox done, because like there's the ticking thing of like, oh, here comes the fucking Cyberpunk on the horizon, but in the meantime, like I really wish I could have gotten to Mortal Shell, because there's a decent looking Souls-like that came out, but on top of that there's a DLC for Outer Worlds, and I'm like, how the fuck does anyone keep up with this? Holy shit.
Wasteland 3 is really good, isn't it?
Or we haven't gotten very far in it.
Yeah, I don't think we're far enough to know.
I'm enjoying it.
We
Hear
barely
about
just
as far
beat
as
the
I
first
am.
area.
But it's also a glitchy disaster.
Oh, for multiplayer, probably, yeah.
Well, we had the entire. We went. They give you once you get your like starting base, they give you objectives like go to these places, and like there's a bunch of driving locations, but then there's one you can just like walk to down the path. It's like the local town. Mm-hmm. We cleared out like the entire local area of a bunch of objectives and like did a bunch of like hours of gameplay. Then came back next session, and the entire region had reset.
Oh no!
Yeah, like it's that kind of glitchy mess. So it's like,
wow,
our entire quest log was empty, and the entire area had reset to its previous thing, but the world state in certain ways was still saved. So like we'd been sent to deal with something outside of the area, and we came back, and then the world reset. And we talked to the person who sent us on the mission in the first place that runs that town, and she introduced herself from scratch again, but then gave us the quest again. But then I just talked to her again and turned it in, because the game still knew we had finished the quest, even though we hadn't had the quest. And I have no idea. It's just like, it's once again like it's an Exile game that's like shouldn't
for sure
be out yet, basically.
I've been enjoying the writing and the voice acting. I think the voice acting is brilliant. Like in comparison to other games of the genre, like every single character for me is like stand out.
We're playing as the gay punk rock friends.
Yeah, I saw the first episode.
The
only.
bros with the spikes and the mohawks.
My favorite character is the fish seller in the market, and she's so cute. She's awesome. She's so awesome.
Friends was not the correct word.
Yeah.
I was like, why did I say friends?
They're lovers.
Yes.
So, let's go back to topic, maybe.
Jesus.
Yeah, let's try.
Your
skipping
turn,
this
Keith.
list.
People are going to have opinions today. I recommend everyone upload this video with the setting on YouTube where all comments are held for review.
That's how every video.
And then you can manually moderate all of the comments because there's going to be a culling. As there always is. You just shake it and the spiders fall out. And you're like, ah!
And by the way, if you want to comment on Keith's video and you can't for reasons, come to my channel. You can comment on mine. No, you can't.
They think they can comment. People, especially if they didn't get this far, and also if they don't understand how like YouTube works. Because if you leave a comment on a video, and it's like filtered or whatever, usually you can still see it anyway, so it feels like you left your comment. And if you've been banned from a channel, you can still comment on every single video, and it looks like you're doing it, so you don't think there's been any consequences, which is part of the upside of it because it makes people not try to get around the ban if they take longer to realize it's even happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's so much garbage out there that it's just I never have to listen to again, and it's great.
Gaming and the gaming community has problems.
Yes.
And we need to work on them.
Some like maybe circa like 2012 problems.
And 2014 as well. August 2014 is like, yeah.
I think you're just.
I remember.
Oh, that was never mind. Yeah, 2014 was Gamergate. Whoops, that was 2012.
Yeah. I remember in 2009 when this. It was the review for one of the Tomb Raider games or something. There was somebody from GameSpot that got fired because they talked about GameSpot. There was something having to do with the sponsorship that Square Enix had on GameSpot. In GameSpot, I don't know if they're still a website, but they're like big on reviews.
Not necessarily Tomb Raider, but it was Kanan Lynch was reviewed by Jeff Gerstmann, and he got fired for panning the game. And then he went on to he and some of his other GameSpot friends all left and founded Giant Bomb.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what Giant Bomb is. Yeah.
So that
Jeff
scene
Gerstmann's
for
still
me,
around. I think it's probably in a better place now. There's this big irony because Giant Bomb did pretty decently, and they ultimately got acquired by somebody who also acquired GameSpot. And I don't know if it's still true right now, but they were literally in the same office building when I was listening to their podcast at my old job. Like they were now in the same office building as each other, as separate and like equally valid publications, basically. Like,
isn't capitalism a lovely tool to bring us all together?
Oh boy,
into the same building.
It's like at that point, I don't think anyone that made that choice was around anymore. So there's not exactly bad blood, but the irony is so thick.
That incident and the scene of gaming journalism around that time was very formative for my own opinion about game journalists and about game journalism and about how important it is and how corrupt it can be. So I was really lucky to, I mean, I consider myself lucky, honestly, to Gamergate completely passed me by in 2014 because everybody was like, oh no, which is just one of the sides of the Gamergate, but everybody was like, oh, game journalists are corrupt, which was not what Gamergate was about really at the end of the day.
No.
But I was like, yeah, you haven't seen anything. I've been at this for a long time. So I didn't really care for any of the arguments. And then I eventually found out 2 years later what it was all about. And I was like, oh no, oh no. And I think the fallout of that is so... It's like what we were talking about. It's toxic. People get inbred into that ideology. They just can't... They can't get out. It's very difficult.
You got your 4chans and your Reddits and your several toxic like nerd YouTube channels and so on that just kind of are breeding grounds for just being constantly angry all the time at essentially boogeymen. And yeah, it's a mess because like
feminists
and like in the aughts and the 90s and so on, like games journalism was really bad, but like
Yes.
not for, but like but then when the rage happened, it had nothing to do with any of the actual details of what was actually wrong with games journalism. It's just
It
like
was just
this is
hating
just,
on women and lies.
Yeah, no, it's just
And some
it was,
people who
it was
didn't
never
know
about
better.
ethics in game journalism.
Yeah.
And like that, yeah, like otherwise that big event would have happened around Jeff Gerstmann and not like the way it did. There's
Yeah.
so many better examples to go after. Because
And more
like,
influential as well, not just for being true in case of Jeff Gerstmann. Because for Brianna Wu, was that her name? I follow her on Twitter. I don't remember if it's her, but like it wasn't even true. Like it's not even. It was all like a Pizzagate style conspiracy theory sort of situation.
it's hard to keep track of how many people we're being mad at, but the normally people are talking about Zoe Quinn.
Zoe Quinn, sorry. Yes, that is the one.
But if I search Brianna
Wu, I
Wu,
think.
it brings up people also search for Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian and Leah Alexander. So it's probably not
There's
unrelated.
like 6 or 7.
But I've lost track of her. But no, yeah, it was a very angry time. It was really weird because for example, Anita Sarkeesian's content was basically advertised by the hate. Like the amount of people that were mad about it made her more successful.
Oh yeah,
Not only by proving her right a lot of the time, but also just actively advertising her by never shutting up about her, which is the entire reason I know she exists as a person.
Same here.
I subscribed and I watched all her videos and I was like, what's the fuss here? Because why are people so yelly about this thing? And that was one of those big moments where it's like I went in expecting the idea that being in a pre-Gamergate world, I wasn't already massively biased against the outrage the way that I often am now. So I was like, okay, something must have gone wrong here. Something must be up. So let's go check this out and see what it's about. And then I was like, what? These are just really dry lectures about like feminism 101.
I got
kind
really
of
lucky.
Boring. There's just not that much to them.
The beginning of her work is very, very dry.
Yeah,
I got again very lucky. The first video I watched of hers was one about Islamophobia in gaming, and that really resonated with me because I grew up Christian and I live in a Christian country. The Islamophobia here in Portugal is pretty widespread, and it is a problem. We don't have many Islamic people, but it is definitely ingrained in the culture. So I could see a lot of things from an American person. I could see. Is she American or is she Armenian? She's American, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think she's
either way. She grew up in the US.
She's born in Canada.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Nationality
but the thing
American/Canadian. So I'll just trust that.
For
I'll
somebody
trust
from
Google.
for somebody from the other side of the world to recognize the same patterns as I recognize in other things, not necessarily in gaming, like I watched that particular video about Islamophobia in gaming, and I was like, "Whoa, this makes total sense." So, I think from the beginning, I was on an agreeable terms with her because I found her because of Fallout 3 is garbage, and here's why. That video is amazing, but it also led me specifically into the rabbit hole, as it were.
Yeah, I'm looking at her Wikipedia page, and it just mentions her having 31 million views. And I'm like, that's all that anger focused on a channel that has so little actual viewership by comparison. Like, several people essentially made a career out of being mad at her. And it shows how much that largely involves people just listening to those people and taking them verbatim and just trusting them all the time and not ever actually engaging with the material that they're talking about in the first place. And like that's just this whole thing works. Like, to this day, like, I think feminist, am I subscribed to them right now or not?
Feminist Frequency?
Let's see. They might have been uploading filler content that I lost interest in.
They do a lot of Star Trek
they're
stuff.
active now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they've been active. I'm subscribed at some point.
They do a lot of other stuff outside of YouTube as well. I don't follow them outside of YouTube.
No, I unsubscribed when they started doing like constant podcasts and like short form like reviews and stuff, I'm like, this is not what I subscribed for. It's just the thing. It's why I always consider, like, if I ever do like a video essay or something, like I should really have it on a separate channel.
Would like.
Oh, whoops! I muted myself.
A little bit, yes.
Like a fool.
Just for a little bit. Back to the. What is your movie, Keith?
We're gonna pretend this is salvageable still.
Of course it is. People are very interested.
So for those keeping track, my first recommendation was The Garden of Words, and Colonel's recommendation was V for Vendetta.
And
also, I would like
we
to
went
ask.
on a path, which his recommendation was V for Vendetta, which he thought wasn't that great.
It's a good movie to watch, not necessarily to appreciate or to like, but if you like, it's fine. Natalie Portman is so tiny in that movie and so American as well. She's so American.
She's always tiny.
Yeah, she's always tiny in real life. Like,
she's always been a very small person. Has
but
a tendency to shave her head.
They portray her as she's so tiny. It is unbelievable. I think they really meant for her to look small.
She has a propensity for shaving her head. A lot of roles require her to lose her hair.
A very narrow, short, sinewy, gangly kind of person. Like that, it's and that's often played up for elements of like vulnerability or body horror. I mean, if she was in the Professional, like her origin point, I think, with Leon the Professional. Then like she plays a child princess or child queen in the Star Wars movies, and then like the whole horror movie of Black Swan and so on. It's kind of been a thing for a while, and now she's literally playing the version of Thor that has cancer.
Oh,
it's like Thor's hammer goes to his love interest character from the comics, and I don't remember her name, but she has cancer and she's going through chemotherapy, but she's able to wield the hammer, and so it's like it's an interesting character.
She looks really good. She looks really good even when her head is shaved. She's really pretty.
But yeah, I haven't read that storyline, so I don't know a ton about it, but it's an interesting idea. I think there was an idea that like whenever she uses Thor's power, she's shortening her life or something.
Ooh.
So it's like there's some stuff going on there. It's like,
oh, because she's not Thor.
Well, I think it might have to do with her condition.
Oh, okay.
It's like she's worthy of the hammer, but she's dying of cancer, and grabbing the hammer can give you this power, but I don't think it magically cures you or anything. Like it's not going to heal her and fix those problems. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Or even I don't even know if they're dealing with those ideas in the movie, or if they're just going to be like, it's Natalie Portman with a hammer. I'm
that is a movie right there.
I'm kind of burned out, which is kind of a bummer because it's a bummer to be burned out on superheroes just in time for when they're suddenly less afraid of making female ones. Because it's like, oh yeah, here comes the Black Widow movie, even though that happened, and here comes and here we got Wonder Woman, and we've got Captain Marvel, and we've got female Thor, and other things are going on. It's like, wow, it took them so long that it literally burned out on the entire concept before it finally started being like, what if they weren't all white guys? It's like,
I stopped watching superhero movies on the first Amazing Spider-Man. That was the last superhero movie I watched, I think.
Amazing
which
Spider-Man?
was like 10 years. Yeah, the first one with
the reboot thing.
Yeah. The one after
you guys are real bad at sticking to this goddamn list.
Yeah, no. Well, he literally is like, so Keith, your next movie. Anyway, Natalie Portman's so small in that movie. Let's talk about Natalie Portman.
I'm sorry.
It's like bait.
Talk over me. Stop me.
I for this purpose of this list, I rewatched 2 movies because I wanted to reconfirm how much I did or didn't like them or whatever, because it'd been a while. I have times where I watch a movie and like the lingering feeling of what I thought of the movie's quality lingers, but sometimes that's the only thing I remember after a couple of years, and it's like because there's just so much art. And sometimes, and so you get a lot more sometimes when you come back and watch. Like 2 of these movies, and I watched them in the last 24 hours. They added so many details back in that I just straight up skipped my mind entirely about those films. So I tried to recommend stuff that most people haven't seen. which is exactly the kind of stuff I like. They're like treasures. Like whenever I make a discovery of like some kind of film that no one has really told me about, and I have a good time with it, I always want to like share it around and let people know about them and so on. So the first movie on my list is Calibre, and spelled Calibre because there's two different versions of those. And
you and your spellings.
I just randomly watched this on Netflix one day with no context, and it's kind of a great way to watch that movie because it has just a series of reveals and things going on where it's just the more you know about it going in, the more it can kind of spoil some of those feelings, but it's also really hard to sell it. One of the things
you got the British Academy Awards.
Oh yeah, so no, it's very well received, but I've never heard anyone mention it ever. I don't know if anyone knows this movie. I have no idea what its scope of popularity is, or if like maybe across the pond there's more people that like know about it or something. But I've straight up never seen a commercial for this or heard anyone refer to it or talk about having seen it or anything like that. But it's a British drama, and it's hour and 40 minutes long. Why? That's not necessary. So it's one of these films that a particular thing I like is I like character driven stuff, and it also is like a treat when you have like a film that's feels like it's full of like solid actors, but you don't really feel like you recognize anyone, or maybe there's like one or two people you kind of have this spark of like, maybe I kind of have seen that person before, but you're not like, oh my god, it's Chris Evans. Like you're not sitting here like being wildly aware of the star power of the film, and instead it's just like, it just feels like it's a bunch of people basically that are like all 90th, they're all like 90th percentile attractive, but you know, they're all just people.
All the hot people.
And in this case, it's like, it's not an English, fuck.
They're all ugly. Is that it?
What is their
Is that what you're
accent?
saying, Keith? How are they saying they're ugly? Jack Lowden?
I'm bad at,
looks amazing.
I didn't. No, I was saying that they're all like top 90.
Oh,
like they're all like better than, they're more attractive than 90% of people. But you know,
I see.
Oh, it's super. It's the superstars or whatever. I wanted to say where it is, and I'm like, I actually don't really know because I'm bad at Europe.
The setting?
Yeah, I was trying to say like,
it's
in the
Highlands of Scotland.
It is in Scotland.
Yeah, it's what it says in the wiki page.
Yeah, so it's in the forest in Scotland. And so it's these two people that are friends. One of them is about to be a father, and they're kind of having this like away, like that. You have this feeling that it's like their final trip before he kind of has to engage with what the rest of his life is going to be, which is a common trope for movies, is to often have like this is their final hurrah before the thing happens and so on, like the Hangover movie and kind of shit like that. So they're gonna go hunting, and he's not really ever been hunting before, but his friend wants to take him hunting in the Scottish forests, and they're going out to this like they go to this small town, and they meet a bunch of people, and it's just like a bunch of like well acted, well scripted little like chill scenes of them kind of engaging with different people and getting in conflict with this or that person, and like having a heart to heart with this person, and just kind of a bunch of scenes that really let you live in that town for a bit and get to know everybody and feel like you're just flesh them all out as people and as this lived in space and so on, and make you kind of like everyone to some extent, except for certain people. And then they go out the next day to their hunting trip, and the hunting trip goes very badly. And I don't mean I don't mean like they didn't do a good job at hunting. Good. I mean the trip goes very badly, and the rest of the film is them dealing with the consequences of what happened on the hunting trip and hiding what happened and having to deal with the fact that like people know that they were there and who they are, and like they're staying in this small town where everyone in the town knows who they are because they're like the only hunters in the entire region because it's such a low population and low popularity area. And they have to like go back to these people that they've met and try to like maintain normal conversations knowing what happened, and try to continually not reveal what they know and what has happened and so on. And it's just this, it's one of those things where it's like when I love I love a lot of Tarantino films and stuff like Inglourious Bastards, where you just have these long conversations that are just ratcheting the tension, and there's things and you're wondering which characters know what and what this is going to happen and when the shoe's going to drop. And like Inglourious Bastards is like literally has like several scenes that are like 10 to 20 minutes long of just a conversation that's continually ratcheting one source of tension over and over again, and you're just losing your mind watching it. And like Caliber is a lot of that, and it's just best if that kind of like distressing suspense thing is what you like to watch, then this film is for that. And I've intentionally been vague because I don't know, I value just going in and just discovering things and living them the way they are. I tried to convey the premise and only spoil the amount you need to know to even have an understanding of the premise, because just saying a name of a movie and then saying watch it is too little. But yeah. I think
you make it sound interesting for sure.
I think even watching a trailer would spoil more than I've given. And I think that's maybe even a little bit of a problem, but that's how trailers work.
You make it sound like Weekend at Bernie's, but serious.
Yeah. It's the kind of tension that makes you want to puke. It's one of those movies. It's not. It is not a funny movie. It is not fun.
What the hell does that mean? No, I don't. What do you mean tension that makes you want to puke? I've never. Yeah. What does that mean? Do you like?
Have you ever played Alien Isolation?
It's my kind of movie.
Yeah, it didn't make me want to puke. It made me furious.
Oh, it made him very angry.
The tension in that game just makes me.
This must be some kind of weird, like, human emotion I've never.
No, the video. You can go watch our old Let's Try of Alien Isolation, or our miniseries. I guess that was a miniseries where we quit.
I think I watched it.
It was a quickie, technically.
Yeah, well, it was a one-off session, but I think we made like 5 episodes out of it. But you can just watch Andrew just continually lose and scream at the game for it, which definitely dismantles the tension. I definitely felt the tension more when I played the game myself. You did
a Let's Play, didn't you?
Yeah, I did a full playthrough of that game.
Oh, and, that's the one I watched. Yeah.
I found the game exhausting.
It is very easy.
Because it makes you tense, but it's also 20 hours long, and it's just like this is too much of this feeling.
So true.
So yeah, I've never
so this movie is better.
I've never felt tense enough to vomit.
So this movie is better than Alien Isolation because it's only 1 hour and 40 minutes, so you're not gonna puke too much.
That was a good find. I watched it last night to confirm that I liked it as much as I thought I did, and I did. Nice. It was good for a rewatch, especially when I've forgotten a bunch of little details along the way. That's my kind of jam. Recent as well. My entire list is dark films. You definitely get get a different tone from each of our lists.
Yeah, mine's not gonna. Well, yeah, mine aren't ever. Actually, a lot of mine are not dark. Most of them are very emotional, but they're not dark.
Yeah. So what you got, Andrew?
So let's see. The next one I'll recommend is A Silent Voice, which is a very emotional movie about the actions of a young man towards a deaf girl in elementary school and the consequences of those actions later in life. And it's not like, there's no thriller, there's no like, there's no tense. It's just hard. It's just a hard.
It deals with the.
It just deals with the aspect of bullying and what that can turn into. But yeah, I like it. The movie probably isn't the best way to experience a story. I would say the manga is obviously the best way. Because there's a lot more time. Obviously there's a lot more time to grow the characters and stuff like that. Yeah, but the movie,
I looked at the box set and it's like 5 entire volumes, which is definitely a rough adaptation to make a movie out of.
Yeah, the movie definitely has some pacing issues because it assumes you've read it, which is fine because it's not like One Piece where you need to read like 90 volumes. You just need to read 5 manga. But I would, if you've read it, I would definitely recommend watching the movie. It's it really hits a lot harder when you hear people saying lines from the manga that you're
Does
like,
it does it deal a lot with how does it deal with the aspect of being deaf? Is it like a center point or
no? So you're experiencing the story through the bully.
Oh,
So you're so you don't really, so you're looking at it from, it's interesting because you're looking at it from an angle from the person that it's trying to make you dislike. I mean, it makes you dislike this person that you then
like an
need to be
anti-hero.
Yeah, like you need to be sympathetic towards because you feel bad for the outcome that this bullying has had, but you also are following the bully. So you're trying to like, you're not, it's one of those weird positions where you try to like, how do you deal with forgiveness in a bullying situation, and can you forgive bullying? Is like that's kind of the core themes, and I think it handles it. I think it handles it well. I will admit it definitely is more. I wish it would. I wish it had a little bit more to say, because bullying is a really big issue in Japanese culture for school, anyways. And I kind of wish it had a little bit more to say there. But I think the movie tends to be a little bit more hollow on it because it doesn't have the time. And the manga didn't. I think the manga wanted a different resolution than the reality could account for. But yeah, I don't know. I would recommend it. It's again, it's on Netflix, so you can watch it there. But yeah. How about you, Colonel? Next one.
Sounds pretty cool. That's the sort of anime movie that I honestly like the most, honestly, because if it's very plot driven, I don't know. I prefer to be plot driven. I prefer it when it's these like anime series rather than movies. So my next suggestion or my next recommendation is my favorite animated movie. Well, since we're talking about animated movies, although it's not Japanese animation, of all time, and including Japanese animation, it's WALL-E from, I think is it Disney or is
Pixar.
it Pixar before? Oh, it's Pixar. Okay. WALL-E, it's written Wall-E, and it's a very different movie than what I'm used to, although admittedly I'm not the biggest movie watcher, although I have watched a few. What really drew me into this movie is how beautiful the first, probably, let me see how long it is. It's 97 minutes. So it's probably the first 40 minutes, maybe 50 minutes. They're all completely without anybody speaking a word. And it's very quiet and sort of very typical Pixar, as far as I know Pixar. It's very much about the scenarios and the characters, which for a long part it's just WALL-E. And so the beginning of the movie is really, really contemplative, and then it just grows into it's almost it's a very hopeful movie, I find, but it is also very much a critique of our society of today. So it sort of ties into what V for Vendetta was, or we were talking about V for Vendetta, because the movie goes places where it talks about consumerism. I mean, it's set in a world where humans can't live anymore on Earth because there's so much trash around. So right off the bat, it is about the impact of our existence on the planet. And WALL-E is a little
adding
robot.
politics to movies. Art isn't about anything.
WALL-E is a little robot that just goes around cleaning the trash and does that forever. And it's got like a charging station and whatnot. So it's really beautiful from right off the bat. There's a little love story and a little thing that's going to surprise you. And it's also family friendly. So I honestly think that it's a movie that absolutely everybody should watch. Of every age, and I can't recommend it enough. It's honestly one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, don't show any of my movies to your kids.
Yes.
What?
It's the whole list. None of them. None of those movies. Don't show them to your kids unless you're cool. Hey everyone, this session was about 4 hours long, so I figured I'd cut it in half and make 2 episodes out of it so it's a little easier to get through and process and consume and whatnot and things. So check back in a few days for part 3, which is part 2 of this. Yeah.